All right, so if you had to guess,
This is Auto Collabs.
how many different ways have people in my lifetime said my last name?
Different. Oh man, I'm gonna guess there's definitely 4 that I could like
There's at
make a
least
case for.
3 hands worth.
I think
At
it surprised
least
you
3
that
hands
people
worth.
get my last name wrong too.
What do they
What
call
is
you?
it? Daly?
Daly, Dolly, Daly.
It's unbelievable.
They spell
There's
it
really
wrong.
3
They spell it
options.
wrong all the time. All these I's and E's in there,
Oh,
but not like
yeah.
yours.
Not like mine.
Nah.
You had
To
to
set
have
the
had
record
that
straight-
one high school French teacher that just had to say
Crushed
your
it.
last name.
Just had to do it. But I got Monster, Mountsier, Mountsier, they Monter. Like you missed the whole S. It's Mountsier to set the record straight. It's very English sounding, unlike our guest today, which has a very not English sounding.
No, but your name.
name.
No. But don't you go because you'd be like Mountsier, right?
Mountsier.
Mountsier.
You could go there. You could go.
But today's
Mountsier.
guest, you say his name better than any of us.
like Laurent Charpentier.
come on,
Right?
Whoa.
Is
Come on.
going to be joining us, not from France, but from
Texas,
from the
I
States.
think.
He is the CEO of Yooz, and we hope that you enjoyed this conversation, probably about nothing French. All right, hanging out here with Laurent of Yooz. Laurent, thank you so much for joining us on Auto Collabs today, first of all.
My pleasure, guys.
All right. So, by your first name and your accent, people will very quickly tell that even though you live in Dallas, Texas right now, you are not from Dallas, Texas. Give us a little bit of background of like why coming from France to the US was important to you. Like I'm gonna dive right into that.
So you mean my accent didn't hide it? Oh, come on.
Fake accent. Yeah.
Yeah, no, born and raised in France, and while I got my education in computer science engineering, I went to the U.S., studied for a couple years at MIT, actually in Boston, and this was an amazing experience. Made me really love the U.S. Built a great network while I was there, and so came back to France after that. Spent some time doing some consulting work with Accenture in Paris. And then I started, getting this envy to come back to the U.S. And this is at that time that I found the Yooz adventure with a nice success story and fast growth in France. And the project for Yooz was let's go international, and the choice was let's go in the U.S. To grow the company and bring the product to the U.S. market. So this is when I joined. Very different experience from Accenture, going from a very big company to a startup mode. But there was an amazing thing to build, and remember I was probably number 3 or 4 when I joined the U.S. Branch, and today Yooz in the U.S. is about 100 people. 400 people in our French team, with the product development being all located in France. So it's been a great ride.
So one question that I have, because this is not something that you see a lot of, at least in my experience, is someone moving from like purely engineering, both via education and career path, into the executive seat. How did that kind of like come about for you? Did you always desire that type of leadership, or was it kind of like a growth, a coming of age through, the engineering, career path that you had?
Yeah, it was always a little bit in the back of my mind. I mean, my family is kind of entrepreneurial. Yooz was born as part of a larger company in France that actually had been founded by some of my family members. So it was a little bit in my blood. But the idea for me was I wanted to do my own thing, right? I wanted to build something, and this is why I did my I guess my training, if we can call it this way, at Accenture. This was a great methodology to learn, and then coming to the US, being number 3 or 4 to launch the US side was a great way to build something from the ground up. And started with definitely my engineering background, pre-sales, support, implementation, and as the company grew, took that leadership role to manage the U.S. operations first. And I didn't invent the business side. I recruited some talented leaders on the marketing side, on the sales side, to complement my technical background, and we've built a great team. Companies are about people. Yooz is about the work family that uses, and it's about the team, right?
I think it'd be easy to miss this if you weren't at NADA or you haven't interacted with the Yooz team in any way, shape, or form. But when you think accounting, you typically like the image that is conjured. Like if we plugged, like show me an accountant
We're all
into like
don't worry, you don't even have to
GPT
give the
or
rest of the
Daly, right?
description.
Everybody
We got
knows.
it.
Everybody knows where I'm going. However, when we were at your booth at NADA, there were flamingos, bright colors, lively, attentive staff, young faces, just excited to be the young man. I can't remember his name, but he was telling me how he's like really good friends with Leon Bridges, the musician. So it's like, I think the personality of the company is, you pair that with a technical savvy, and I really think it is indicative of like the future of how people are thinking about accounting and technology and interaction. And I just want to make sure we start talking about those things on this podcast as well, because
Absolutely.
the personality behind the process and the mentality, I think, goes a long way as auto dealers are constantly thinking in more progressive ways how to use technology and automation to improve their business and solve some problems. So were the flamingos your idea?
Yeah, it was one of our marketing leaders, but I was really fan of it because the company started in the south of France, and there are a lot of famous places in the south of France where flamingos, migrate or spend some time. So I was like, yeah, this is a nice touch to our origins. Let's try to use that as our mascot. So we're starting
Oh man.
to leverage that, and the bright pink colors, of course, and we try to bring differentiation and unique benefits in our product, and we try to also bring differentiations in how we interact in our culture and all of that as well. It's very important to us as well.
You brought up something that resonates with me. I wrote this down. You said companies are about people. And obviously, I mean, this is Auto Collabs, part of Automotive State of the Union, more than cars. This is something we care deeply about. Um, at what point do you make the realization as a leader that, oh, that's actually what the company's about? We have a product, but the product's only going to be elevated to the degree that our people are elevated. Have you
Uh,
always felt that way? Does it stem from a family business mindset? Where does that come into play for you? How did that come about?
Yeah, it's been in the root of the company from very early on, and I cannot say it's fully from me, but I like to believe I'm playing a strong role, and so do all of our team members today in nurturing this culture, maintaining it, especially as we grow and the company is getting much bigger than 8-10 years ago. So yeah, pretty early on we realized that we're like, oh, we want to work with people that we have fun working with, that we enjoy, and if we have a great product and great people, then it's going to elevate the company, it's going to elevate the customer experience, and it's going to generate innovation, and that's what it's all about.
I've got one more question, if I can, about this.
You're out of questions, Michael.
As see you guys later. I quit. As the company grows, right? I think when you're in a startup phase, it almost seems like that family-esque vibe, that real people-centric vibe, is easy to maintain. A lot of companies I talk to, when they breach that 50, 100 employee, 200, or to your point, if I'm seeing this, you said 400 people in France and 100 people in the US, so
Yeah.
500 person company. What are some examples, maybe from your vantage point, of how you maintain that closeness as you have 500 employees around the world?
First it's telling people about, hey, here's what's the DNA of the company, here's what our roots are, so they know about it, so they know about our core values, and we've defined what those core values are actually as a team. So a few years back, we actually sat down and brainstormed, okay, what are our values, what do we want to communicate to our organization inside and outside. So we set up our core values with a set of qualities and a set of behaviors that everyone should strive to embody every day and to live by. So that's something that is presented to everyone, so they know what it's about. With that said, it's necessary but not enough. Then you got to build that closeness, bring people together. So we're trying to make sure that there is a good dynamic around the office. We actually in the US just expanded our office space, and just moved into a brand new office space. Our French crew did the same thing last year, and this is all about a lot of little things. We're doing some happy hours. We're celebrating the birthdays every month. We're just throwing quarterly business reviews, parties, things like this, that we try to bring people together and really make them bond. So it makes it easy for them to collaborate and then bring that level of excellence later. So no, it's nothing I would say super innovative, but it's about having that pace and having everyone on board for doing this from the moment they join the company, really.
And
Yeah.
is your office space here in Dallas?
Yes, just north of DFW Airport in Coppell, exactly.
Oh, cool. I'd love to come and visit.
Yeah, you should. Yeah.
Come and check it
You
out.
better watch out because Cirillo's gonna show up with one of those pink flamingos on the stick that you just
Dressed
stick
up
in the
like a
front of the
pink
ground.
flamingo.
That'd be
And
great.
he'll be dressed like a.
I'll
it'll be
just stand in the corner
absolutely
on
amazing.
one leg to see how long it takes someone to notice.
Nice.
It's unbelievable.
Oh my God.
I got a wrong picture in my
Oh,
mind
Michael.
just now. It just like there was way too little clothing, way too tight. It was all wrong.
Where did that
Cyril.
stick come from?
Oh
My
no!
short, stocky Italian legs that just won't work as a flamingo.
That's amazing. Paul was saying earlier, like accounting again, not the the sexy thing in SaaS products is marketing and automation and AI and all of that type of stuff. Typically, you don't run to accounting to be like, that's the cool new thing on the block.
Yeah.
But you guys have really taken a different perspective on what's important within the dealership and leveraging technology to free up people.
Yes.
Can you give us a little bit of insight to like where the origin story of the product of Yooz came from? Like, what was the reason why someone initially said, like, that's a problem that we have to solve?
So the very origin story about Yooz came from the former parent company in France, which was building software to automate document-based processes, not only invoices but any type of document, questionnaires, check capture, things like the social security forms, etc. So they had a product to automate AP, but that product was fairly heavy to deploy and kind of reserved to the Fortune 500 companies, and they saw a trend where essentially the SMB space had the same pain points, really, with just lower volumes of invoices, but at a much smaller scale as well with less people. So really the same pain points. And this is when the idea came from, hey, let's bring some of our DNA in the cloud, build the first SaaS product to automate AP. And this was back in 2010 in France when we launched. And then if we fast forward a few years after that, when we brought that to the US, we really saw an open field on the mid market, and that included the dealerships. And we quickly got into a very good relationship with and I don't know if I can cite their name, a big DMS player who picked us as the exclusive AP automation provider. So that gave us a ton of expertise into the space, because we piloted that with some of their clients, and we built a dedicated integration. And 8 years, 9 years later, we're now very well known in the DMS in the dealership world. And this allowed us to build not only specificities in the product for the auto dealers or the truck dealers, but also really understand their world when it comes to parts, service, sales, etc., and build that expertise in our team.
I'm like my whole goal to get out of this is to understand from you why you think people still sign paper checks and send them in the mail in the US from auto dealers. That's all I want to know. Actually, I don't care about anything else. I just want to know why that still exists in our world. Because I'm sure like there's this there's this variable in like dealers, the way that they're just thinking about the function of AP, which like for so much of the world is just like hit, you know, bill.com and ship the check, or like, pay it via credit card, put it on monthly repeat. But like, because of the systems and the processes that we've set up specifically in auto, we've created this ecosystem that like still is, from my perspective, resting on your laurels. And I'm guessing your product is solving some of that. But like, why why do we still sit where we sit in retail auto, in like just that little thing, accounts payable,
Yeah,
right?
it's a very good question, and hopefully, that's the I think the modernization is accelerating in the auto world for sure. The DMSs are all, making a lot of improvements, opening up their systems with more APIs, etc. And on our side, I think it's just the status quo. All the companies, like you said, they tend to make investment on what generates sales. So it's the marketing, it's the front end for, for selling, for the sales services, etc. And AP in a lot of cases is still considered as the back office, and things are not broken. They're working as they should with paper processes, but they're not very efficient. And in our world today, I mean, if you want to be competitive, you got to become more strategic when it comes to finance. And this is really what Yooz allows organization and dealerships to do, because again, our pitch is really not that we're going to replace people. It's more about augmenting them and giving them, freeing them up of those tedious hours spent keying data, so they can actually look at the data or look at what they're spending on a per vendor basis, or paying early instead of paying late, and then opening themselves to early payment discounts, things like this. So it's really
Mm,
about this. Why is there not more of a sense of urgency to automate that part? I think it's just because, the phrase, "Oh, it's not broken, so why change now?" And
Yeah.
that's where we're bringing a lot of education to our audience on the ROI of AP automation, etc.
Who are the dealers who switched to your platform? In the last, we'll say 12 months. What are they typically focused on, and why do they typically make this change?
So in most
Just
cases,
holistically, and if you
yeah.
could too, like not just an AP, like what mindset do the dealers that adopt your platform have?
So the this what you just said, just not from AP, is very important, because really AP automation is not only about the AP or the accounting department. It touches the entire organization, on anyone who can approve a purchase or approve an invoice, right? So it's actually a pretty broad change in the organization. But
mm,
the whole point and the value of Use is that we make that super easy, super intuitive for the approvers, because they can do that from their cell phone, etc. So it's super easy. The mindset, in terms of the people who are signing up with us in the past 12 months, is really about that, that automation, that will to be more strategic. Usually it's often associated to growth as well. It's about doing more with the same amount of staff, or not increasing expenses there. And the dealerships, because there is so much decentralization with different locations, the pain points that you solve are quite unique, and the ROI is amazing. So this is really that mindset that they have: do more with less, and more visibility, more real time data, more strategic value tasks from their staff.
yeah, I think that this is any product right now in our industry that enables scale at centralization is winning,
Mhm.
right? Because centralization is happening at an all-time record pace, right? The number of acquisitions happening from mid and large size groups is quickening. We're getting
Mhm.
more groups with 5 or more rooftops. And like you said, there's still decentralization as far as decision making process, as far as, vendor vendor acquisition, anything like that. But there's centralization specifically in things like back office processes, which
Yes.
is where you could leverage technology to be able to build scale without building, expenses, right?
Yep.
And that's where I think that it's like ripe for the picking for anyone that's executing a product in that type of scenario to like really take market share really fast. So I'm kind of giving you kudos of like,
Thanks.
it's probably going to pick up,
Oh yeah.
It should, and we're DMS agnostic. We are DMS agnostic nowadays. So even if our clients are making acquisitions and they're acquiring stores or locations that are on different DMS, we can accommodate all that and essentially make it even easier for them to create that centralized platform, that centralized source of truth, even though they're still in a decentralized, organization in terms of the locations, maybe the AP staff, maybe even the systems they're using that may not have merged yet because of such acquisitions in terms of external growth.
Well, Laurent, it has been a pleasure getting to know you a little more, hearing about just your entrepreneurial energy for the company and the segment and for auto dealers. Thank you so much for sharing some of your time with us today on Auto Collabs.
Thank you very much, guys, for having me. It was a pleasure.
All right. Accounting is cool again. I mean,
it's cool. It's cool.
Officially.
Cirillo's going to be dressing up like a flamingo just because he's excited about it. That's going to happen.
I do.
I
standing on one foot. Yeah.
Yep.
No.
Well, I will say there are subsets of our industry that just do not get enough highlight because they are the back office or because they are in parts, and everybody wants to do the sexy, attractive thing and like go get more customers with some cool marketing campaign that has a display ad, right?
Yeah.
And so much of our inefficiency in the industry is actually in the back office tasks. And think about this, like how does that, because we're all about consumer experience, employee experience, all that here at ASOTU. And you think about like if your ARAP person is frustrated because their work balance and the way that they actually do their work is so difficult or requires all of this manual input when they are experiencing an iPhone on their day-to-day life, how does that impact the accounting room? That then impacts the time that they get the calls about titles and tag work and all of the residual impact of like, if you don't get this thing right and make that person's role better, like you're missing the whole point, right?
It makes me think of how smart that is just as a business play. Because while most might regard that as the unflashy thing, there are still some very flashy advancements that they're thinking about in particular inside of that sphere. But also, like it reminded me of just an investing play. Sure, there's people that want to make big bets and high risk and all of these sorts of things, but 9 times out of 10, most investors are like, you know what? Put your money into the thing that is like stable and safe and more predictable.
Absolutely.
And I just think, man, we're in an industry that loves the shiny object. And here he comes through the middle and he's like, yeah, but this thing over here that nobody's paying attention to, that's the thing that's always going to be there.
Yeah. Have you guys ever been in a dealership? Because I've done this so many times and been in like the general managers or the dealer principal's office, and the AP person comes in and like, it's this, I don't even know how they make folders this big, but it's like all in a folder and it's like this big and it's like, thunk, and the check stack comes down. And then what happens right after that? The person just goes like, oh yeah, sign that one. It's like
every once in a while, let a amount will catch their eye and they'll like stop for a second. And they'll ask a question, and the payables person's like, "Yep, you already said this about that." Like,
okay, sign that one, right?
I love that yesterday. Or I love that. I almost said yesterday. I love that in the episode when you were like, "Why are we still like writing and signing checks?" Like,
yeah, that's true though.
For crying out loud. But you know what's funny about this? This is a very country-specific issue because even moving from Canada, where my whole life I was like, man, we're probably so far behind. It wasn't until I moved to the States that
I check writing.
Dude, in a grocery store, I saw somebody write a check when I moved down here. I was like, that's a thing.
Literally, I just had this conversation with Miles.
It'd be illegal.
I was so annoyed because I was going, you know how like during near the food, like where you can buy the grab and go stuff, like the pizza and the subs and all that, they have like a little register so you can check that stuff out. Someone pulls out with a bag of groceries and sets them all out on that tiny little counter they have made for scanning salads. And then the guy paid in cash. And I was like, oh, he did. Stop. And I said, Miles, I was like, this is what it was like back in the day, you would look to make sure someone wasn't writing a check and you wouldn't get in that line, right?
Oh my goodness.
You know, old Aunt Mavis pulls out the checkbook, like pulls out the purse.
What
do I make it out to?
Yeah, right.
Who do I make it out to?
I know. Well, I'm glad we're moving away from it, and Laurent is
At
helping
least
us
in
do
our
that.
industry.
I hope so. I hope so. Well, we hope you had a good time with us. On behalf of Kyle Mountsier, Michael Cirillo, and myself, thanks for spending some time with us today on Auto Collabs.
Welcome to Auto Collabs.
Why are we recording?
Are we rolling yet?